The Pretoria High Court has declared the Administrative Adjudication of Road Traffic Offences Act and its amendments unconstitutional. The Road Freight Association says it's not surprised as many major changes have been made to the original act. Joining me now for some expansion is the association's Chief Executive Officer, Gavin Kelly. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. You've been very vocal about some of the flaws within Aarto. What have been your major concerns?
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers as well. Well, from the very beginning, we were rather concerned around the way in which vehicles would attract points, and obviously our members all have large fleets, and those fleets are made up of both trucks and of their trailers and some other ancillary vehicles. And we were concerned that these vehicles would earn points because they were not roadworthy, and then after having reached a maximum of points, which in the beginning stage was about 12 points, and now it's gone to about 15 points, was the proposal, that these vehicles would be taken off the road and they couldn't be driven for a number of months for each point until these points had receded. So our members couldn't take the vehicles that had defects, for example, take them to a place of repair, get them repaired, bring them back on to a roadworthy test and get them back working again. So you would have had huge amounts of vehicles standing around in depots and yards waiting for these points to dissipate. That was the one thing. The second thing was that within the Road Traffic Act and the Aarto Act, it was an offence to drive a vehicle that had exceeded its points, or a driver was driving who had exceeded these points. But there was no easy process to access these points on a daily basis without having to pay for them, and this would have cost for some of our members hundreds of thousands of rands on a daily basis, and of course would have put businesses out of business if they were just paying administrative levies. So that was a problem for us as well.
Aarto, in its current format, how much does it do to improve road safety, and what are some of those really pressing aspects of it when it comes to the overall safety on the roads?
I think one must remember in the first instance that Aarto isn't implemented in its full entirety. Aarto is implemented in two major metros in the country. That's in Johannesburg and Tshwane, and it's only in terms of the issuing of the notices and going to the enforcement orders. There are no demerit points issued, so the behavior of drivers in terms of having this so-called system that would be demotivational in terms of creating bad behavior or propagating bad behavior isn't in place. And then the original Aarto Act had a provision for sheriffs to attach property, which was the last sort of large stick to stop bad behavior. So that's not in place. So if half of that act isn't in place in the pilot areas, how can you see or determine whether this new way of dealing with lawlessness on the roads and bad road safety is actually going to be a success? In actual fact, the pilot project report in one instance showed that road behavior had got worse under Aarto than under the current system. So it's very, very difficult with any scientific reasonability to actually say Aarto works. And we've asked for those reports. We've seen the reports from the Road Traffic Infringement Agency to the Department of Transport, and there is no guarantee whatsoever, apart from a revenue generation scheme, that this would change behavior.
The Act was meant to be the basis for government's planned demerit system for traffic offences. I mean, we heard what the outcome was in the courts, being the Act being declared unconstitutional. What does this now signify for the way forward in terms of perhaps how this Act can still perhaps maybe stand to be beneficial for road users?
Well, if the court has found the Act in its initial form to be unconstitutional, then it's really going back to the drawing board. And what the court found was that this Act infringed on the rights, if you want to call them that, the mandates, the tasks, the functions, the responsibilities of various tiers of government and not national government. So as you know, we have a three-tiered government system. So municipalities or local authorities have certain responsibilities, as do provinces, as do national government departments or the national government structure. And the court said, no. Aarto is coming in and it's taking away the responsibilities, the functions, and in this case, the actual ability of these other two tiers of government that one could say are below national government, but it's not really that. It's a shared process. Their responsibilities are being taken away, and their rights to be able to do what they need to do to ensure compliance, in this case on the roads, is being taken away from them. And that cannot be done in terms of the Constitution. So you cannot now have the national government determining what happens in a town in terms of simple things like parking or licenses, all the way to speeding and hawking on roads, etc., etc. So if that has been found to be unconstitutional, then the Aarto Act in its entirety, as the Honourable Judge has said, is then moot. It has to be struck off the register, and a different process, a totally different process, is going to have to be brought to the table to address the lawlessness or the bad road safety on our roads.
What sort of structures or perhaps strategies do you believe that South Africa's system needs to be able to benefit road users, motorists, and have it be a system that will be fair when it comes to using the roads and not feeling like, as a consumer, you're being pinched off?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is we need to make it very clear, or make absolute certainty, that the traffic policing authorities are there to address the causes for crashes or accidents, or whatever you'd want to call them, and not there to generate fines. I can write as many fines as I like. That doesn't change behavior. But if I can find out what the causes are and then dedicate my resources to preventing those causes or mitigating those causes. So, for example, if we know that on a certain stretch of road, let's take the N3 down to Durban, on a certain hill outside Pietermaritzburg, there have been crashes due to runaway vehicles, then I need to put my resources there, and those resources can be varied. They can be speed limitation devices on the road network, or they can be speeding cameras, whatever they need to be to bring that cause out of the picture. In the 2020-21 festive season, we saw a dramatic reduction in crashes across the country. Now, the question must be asked, why did that happen? Was it only COVID and that there wasn't that volume of people on the road? Or was it because, and that's what the department did, it focused its resources in the areas where crashes were happening? So that's what we need to do. Identify where the crashes happen and take our resources, both policing and whatever other material, into those places and address those causes.
Thank you so much for your input there and weighing in, and for your time. Gavin Kelly, Chief Executive Officer at the Road Freight Association, just responding to the outcome of the court when it comes to South Africa's controversial new driving laws being deemed invalid and unconstitutional.